we listened to we had an AO call a couple weeks ago now, and we had Marshall Wayland. For you guys that don't know who Marshall Wayland is, he has the largest agency here at Symmetry. And just this call, the way that he explained his posture behind his business, the way that he's growing his business, the reason that he's growing his business, um, it was one of the most impactful calls that we've heard in a while. And it was so simple and it was so genuine. And we were going to plan to bring some of that to you guys today, but we just figured it might be a little bit easier for him to just share the video of it and have you guys listen to it. So we're going back to like grade school where the teachers would like roll into VHS, and set it up.
Bill Nye
And
the Science Guy.
yeah, it was like the best. It was like yeah, watching Veggie Tales or something. Um,
Oh,
so that's what
public
we're gonna do
school.
today. But we really want to encourage you guys to take notes. Um, we're gonna reflect a little bit at the end of the call, just on how again the timing of this with conference coming up and what we can kind of do to implement some of this and really get our heads around why we're doing this and how we're doing this. So,
Yep.
Kristen, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add for people that may not know the name Marshall Wayland, if you're on the national call every week, you'll see him as the leading agency in Symmetry. He's been here since I think basically the start of Symmetry. So he is a managing vice president. His agency is averaging probably 1.3 million per week. And I guarantee he's not writing any of those apps. So if there's anybody to learn from, he's kind of the equivalent of Danny Young for our hierarchy. But Marshall Wayland is another hierarchy and symmetry filled with incredible leaders. Jamie Susie's in that leg, Kelly Bush, Christina Watts, all those names you guys know and see on the leaderboards. So that's who we get to learn from today all together. Definitely take notes, and then we are going to debrief. So let me share my screen and we'll get this call rolling. Go refill your coffee. It's movie day. All
Got to
right.
pour the cup of Cheerios.
Honestly. Yeah, we're not doing this so you guys tune out, but it's a call that we want you to tune into so much that we want to take the time to do this today. I don't know that we'll ever do a team call like this again, but we thought we'd give it a go. So, all right, give me a thumbs up if this sounds okay coming through my computer for you guys in a second.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
People don't get a chance to see you and hear from you enough. Everybody in your organization does. They hear from you a lot. You're always so gracious with, having people into your home, or your homes, whichever one that might be, for the month or the season. But I think that oftentimes, as you know, it's easy to look at where someone is and admire that and say that I want to be there one day. They forget to think about all the last 12, 13 years of all the crap that you went through and the development that you had to go through and the hard times and the challenge, even before that, even before you and I were floating around a little lazy river in Atlantis. Is that where we were when I first
Yeah.
met you? Man, there was a lifetime of challenge, personal challenge, business challenges. And it's easy to look at where people get to and think that that's what they want. And I want people to look at where you've come from and what you've had to go through to get to where you are and realize that that's where the motivation really should be, you know? And so thanks for joining us. Love it. You guys monitor the chat. If there's anything that you would love to hear from Marshall, let me know and I can ask him. But man, let's just do a good old fashioned, walk us down memory lane, buddy. You know, where did you grow up? Where did Marshall become Marshall?
Well, that was a long time ago. Good Lord. That's 60 some years ago, dude. I can't even remember that.
Well, let's all agree that Marshall's the best 60 something year old, best looking 60 something year old we've seen, man. You got it going on, buddy. So,
that's, thanks to Cemetery, I got a good life, bro. That's about it. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small little town in Western Maryland, up in the sticks, West Virginia, Maryland, and you know, I was just happy with getting a job, to be honest with you. And then, you started realizing you needed more out of life. You had to, you get a family and everything, and life changes. Yeah, and you have to become more. You have to become the one that changes your family's life and their legacy.
mhm.
And that's what I think what Meredith was saying there, and as far as getting the leadership and the ability to become a better person. And I remember, my gosh, I remember my first couple of weeks here at Cemetery. I ended up driving down to see you and Casey, and I was telling you, man, this program stinks. The lead stinks. Everything about it stinks, man. And of course, you guys were still in the field, so I knew you all were doing well, but I sure as heck wasn't. I couldn't sell a cotton picking thing. And so I sat down there and told you I wasn't happy. I wasn't being successful. And Casey just kind of leaned back in his chair, and he reached for something in his desk and threw this little piece of paper across the desk and said, well, there's something on this paper that you're not doing. And what that was, that paper was the four cornerstones. And I looked at it, I said, yeah, I'm doing all that except for that silly reading. I don't need to read. Shoot, I read when I was in high school, And I said, I'm just not a very good reader. I read one page and I forget it, and then I move to the second page. And Casey just looked at me. She says, well, you don't have a reading problem. You have a comprehension problem. So he said, what I want you to do is read that one page, write down how you can help somebody with what you learned and what you actually learned. So just two things, and text it to me. I said, okay, I can do that. And that little thing, that reading 10 minutes a day, changed my entire life. I thank you and Casey for being there and having the guts to tell me that, it was just my stinking thinking. It wasn't, I was doing all the things except for the growth and development that Meredith was talking about.
Yeah.
And by far, that is the key to leadership at Cemetery. Because, you guys both told me, says, if you're not reading a book, that makes you illiterate, and we don't deal with illiterate people around here. So, shoot, I thought I was getting fired again, man. I was like,
high challenge, high support right there for sure. So a lot of people can relate to your career before the insurance business. You had a pretty successful mortgage banking career, right? Owned your own company. How many different shops did you have opened up?
Yeah, I had like 3 little offices in the DC area, and spent 20 years in the mortgage business. So I thought, hey, I was going to retire in that business. And 2008 hit, and the banks stopped lending to mortgage brokers. So in day one, I was out of business. And I had to lay off, appraisers, underwriters, processors, receptionists, people that had been with me for years. And I had to lay them off. And that was hard. That was very hard. But the hardest part was still owning leases. I still had to pay about $15,000 a month for leases in DC. So it was kind of steep on me. So I really struggled from 2008 until I found you guys in 2012, because, I just tried every business in the world, but I couldn't make ends meet. And when I came to you, man, I was a broken man. And thanks for that conversation to read a daggone book. Changed everything in my entire life, in my family's life too, by the way. So thank you again.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what some people may not remember or realize is that you had an upline when you first came here. Great person. Can you imagine everybody out there looking at Marshall's numbers now and realizing what you walked away from? That happens sometimes, right? I think there was such a fundamental difference between how that individual viewed the business and what made someone successful, and then what you took as being what the things that you needed to focus on were to grow the business. He was a lot more production minded, was a great producer for those days, right? 20,000, 25,000 a month. Great producer. What made you early on decide that you were going to go the different route and focus? I mean, it wasn't 100% of your business efforts, but it was close. 80, 90% of your efforts on just recruiting, building, bringing in new blood. Was there a moment that you can remember that made you realize that that's what you needed to focus on?
Yeah, I think there definitely was. And it was in the conversation we had when I drove down there. And, I was broken, and I was just begging for help. And you kind of just, I think Casey even mentioned it at the table. He said, first rule of business is to stay in business. He says, just go out and sell enough to pay your bills and reinvest the rest. And then, that's because that's the long-term money. And, we're here for the long-term money. We weren't here for the short-term money because, short-term money is selling. And yeah, that's great, but it's temporary money. I started reading books like, Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Quadrant. And you're just spending your time when you're doing short-term money or temporary money. I wanted that permanent money that Casey and you spoke about that day. And that's when I realized that, what, I can just barely pay my bills for a couple of years, but reinvest everything I got back into recruiting machines, something that's going to bring me people that I can put in that funnel that will eventually come out to a Jacob Pogue or a Ryan Miller or Rob Puckett or Larry Griffin. You got to put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in that top funnel to come out to find the champions. And that's what I learned in that little conversation, man. Those little conversations with you guys totally changed everything about my life, the entire Wayland organization life, because of that one major conversation.
Well, you've always led from the front on the recruiting side, and how you still, Marshall, lead in a lot of times on the directs recruiting side. How many directs do you currently have now? Do you know how many AOs and directs you have?
I got 5 direct 130s.
Yep.
But 18 in the whole organization. And then I think we have 100 and some, over 100 agency owners in the entire organization. And then I've got 4 other major people now coming up in my base shop, which is one of them's my son is now an agency owner.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
My son-in-law is an agency director. And then you got the awesome fired up group, Christy Woodbury, and then the Mike Casey group that are still in my general 130 group. And, they're champions. They're about to be 130s, So then I'm hoping to have 9 direct 130s. And that's all from base shops, man. It's all base shop stuff.
You've never stopped.
Okay.
You've always had that base shop rolling. What do you think that's done for your organization to kind of watch how you have put such an emphasis on building and just put an emphasis on continuing to build the direct, continue to build the base shop, leading from the front, because it's changed, right? It's morphed a little bit. Like you've spent the time, transforming it into much more of a process and a business owner's role type process to where you may not have to be as involved in a lot of the daily activities, but you're making sure that the metrics and the numbers are still getting hit every single week and every month. But what has that done for your agency as a whole? Because do you feel like all of them have that same kind of focus as building first, production second?
Definitely the growing ones are. Yeah. And, and the thing of it is it's just, it hasn't anything that I've done. I've just watched you guys. I mean, literally, I think Casey said one time, it's 3 to be free, 3 direct agency owners to be free, 5 direct agency owners to be a millionaire. And I'm going to add something now. It's 7 direct agency owners to be a multimillionaire. And that's truly the case. Because if you get 3 direct agency owners, you're running a $250,000 base shop, and at that point you have freedom because you could possibly get out of the field. I did because I was more concentrated on just building at that point. Yeah. But I couldn't get out until I was doing about $250,000 a month in the organization. But once I did, I realized those 3 directs, the Rob Puckett's, the Larry Griffin and Larry Spots of the world, changed my life because I was able to now duplicate what you duplicated. And because, you guys look at your organization, which is amazing, unbelievable what Cemetery has done, but it's based on 5 people. You've got the 5 major directs. You got Edward Pritchett, rocket scientist, superstar, and then you've got Linwood Watkins, of course, now is Purdy Group and so forth. And then, you also have the Cooks, the Dannies, and then my group. So you have 5 major groups that create what? I don't know, 60, 70, 130s. Isn't that amazing? And that's all I want to do is duplicate what you do, because what you're doing is pretty good.
It's working.
Yeah.
That's for sure. How long did it take you to really realize that on the recruiting side, that you were just going to sell out to recruiting? You said you invested everything. You mean everything? Like you were pouring everything into it for the first couple of years. How long did it really take you for that to explode, for you to be able to pull out of the field, for you to start seeing just massive strides in your income?
I think that 3-year mark was crucial for me, because at that point, we had the Ryan Millers popping in, you had the Sean Shannons popping in, you had some major depth at that point, because my guys were doing the same that I was doing, the same that you were doing. It's just a duplicate. This is such a duplicatable system. I just don't understand why people don't understand that. It's very simple. It's the simplest business I've ever been able to do. And it's as simple as what Casey gets up on stage every year and tells people. I had a chance to write it down. It's very simple. I don't know if y'all can see it, but he draws 2 boxes. That's simply it. You got 2 boxes, and it's just one box is 15 appointments every week, and 20 interviews every week. And what I mean by that 20 interviews, it's good quality interviews. It's not just saying hi to you. Do you want to join the business? Every week I did this for years. Casey told me I sit down and do this for 2 to 3 years and look up then. Take a look up and see who's behind you. And good Lord, I had a tribe of champions, warriors behind me. But you had to do the work. It was every week. It wasn't 1 week, do it, and then 6 weeks later do it again. Every week. It was consistent. And nobody was better than duplicating this process than a Jacob Pogue. He came on board and he said, Marshall, I want to get my wife out of a job. I want to bring her home, and I'm selling out. I'm jumping in. And this is after he'd been in the business for a year and never really recruited. But when he sat down and talked to me like that, I said, well, this is what we got to do. You got to go get yourself some throat coat, because you're going to be on the phone from 8 o'clock in the morning till 12 at night.
Okay. That's hilarious. Do you think that was because Jacob's initial upline, who we still love, great relationship with him, but because he was more production focused, Jacob was more production focused for that first year? And
Absolutely. You hire who you are. Larry Spoth, greatest guy in the world, he helped us out with annuities and IULs, and that was his passion in life. And I love that for him. He's went on his own and done very well.
Done real well.
But Jacob saw everybody passing by. He saw all these teams blowing him by. He's like, I want in. And that was the greatest conversation I ever had with the guy. Is like, he said, I'm willing to do anything it is to build a team, just like Cemetery. And dude, he just started listening and started doing these simple processes that we're doing. And they doing every appointment every week and doing every interview every week consistently. Yeah. And that's why he became a millionaire.
Yeah. How many people do you think? I mean, Jacob, I think obviously the numbers speak for themselves, special, but you've obviously had a lot of people come to you and say, I'll do whatever it takes to get where you are. Care to put a percentage on how many of them actually do it?
Okay. Let's just say there's a 1% rule.
We found out that talking's a whole lot easier than doing.
Sure it is.
It starts with talking. I want people to get fired up and tell me that. But you weren't focused on teaching, training, the production side. You let the company do that. There were resources everywhere for that. Initially, you weren't really that focused on, and maybe you're still not, the onboarding process and what needs to happen. You just sold out to getting as many people in the top of that funnel, having as many conversations as you can, getting as many people through licensing and contracted with you to write business. That was your sole focus.
This business is so simple. It's simply doing those two boxes. Anything outside of those two boxes, these are our two money producing things, these two boxes. Everything else we do in this business costs us money. So Casey told me, go hire somebody. Go hire somebody to do things that you don't want to do, things that you're not good at. I was good at doing a couple appointments every week and great interviews every week. That was it. So I hired a Tammy Williams that made me millions because this lady took care of all the minutia in my business. She called the underwriters to make sure that, you're online with an underwriter for an hour and a half sometimes just waiting to get a hold of an underwriter back then. We'd make $100 an hour and I couldn't afford to sit on a phone on hold for an hour. So Tammy did that, and I was paying her $10 an hour. So every time I was working for Tammy, delegating somebody to do the minutia here, I was making $90 because
How much production were you running when you hired her?
so I started right after I left your office. That's what you told me is the best way to do is to get somebody to do the work that you're not very good at. And I'm terrible at paperwork. I was horrible at it, And we had a lot of paperwork back then.
Well, I love this. Austin just said in the chat that your team focuses on the Millionaire Challenge, which is you're just focusing on completing the two boxes each week, send the results. That's really that's the majority of what you're talking about.
Exactly. That's the bottom part of that page. If you do this every week, you get to check that millionaire box.
Yeah. Yep.
And you do that consistently for a year or two, your life changes.
Well, we've always said you focus on production and apps may or may not come. You focus on recruiting and they're going to come. Like there's something to be said for Marshall, I think what you've done a great job at is you put people's vision way out here and not just right here. And so when something challenging happens right here, which is always going to happen, right? This is a grind. You're trying to build a business, and your first couple of years, it may be a dogfight, but something bad, challenging, knock you off course right here. If you don't have this long-term vision, that's real easy to derail you. And you can then do what you were saying earlier. You can blame the leads, you can blame the system, you can blame everybody but yourself, right? But the bottom line is until you know what you want, and that's clear enough in your vision, you're not going to be very clear on what you're willing to give up for it, right? And the simplest things, when we're dealing with people and we're dealing with sales, you're going to run into simple things that can feel like they're just going to snowball on you. I get somebody that no shows for an appointment. Then I get a chargeback. Then I get an agent that quit. Then I get these things like that's just part of the process. If you let something that small derail you from where you potentially could be, all it says is that you don't know where you're going clearly enough. And it ain't worth it enough to you to fight through these little things. I think you've done a great job at that. Do you think that starts in the interview process? Do you let people kind of stick their heads up before you start talking about that? When you're interviewing people, even to this day, are you talking long-term vision, big picture, what's available? What are you talking about?
Absolutely. And that's the thing, Brandon, is recruiting solves all problems. I don't care what problem you have. If you have enough recruits in the pipeline, those problems are so small, so minute, that come on your daily agenda that it just doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Because if you've got that power of more people coming, dude, there isn't a problem here. There is no problem here as long as you have 100 people in that pipeline, in that funnel, because I know next week I'm going to have brand new writers and I'm going to have new challenges. Guess what? You get bigger, you're going to have bigger problems. But if you have that recruiting machine running, good Lord, it's not a big problem. Because if someone doesn't like the leads and is going to quit, God bless them. I wish you all the luck in the world, but I've got 100 more people in the pipeline coming. So I'm not really worried about that because I know this system works. This system has been proven over the 13 years that I've been here, time and time again. I've been looking for a reason why this system doesn't work. And it's been for 13 years. I haven't found anything that doesn't work here. The only way to lose money here is to do what my upline did and quit.
Yeah.
That's the only way to lose if you quit.
Yeah.
Because the longer you stay here, the more you learn, the better you become as a leader, and the more people who will follow you. Period.
Yep.
Marshall, one thing, if I can just like reflect on what I appreciate about what you're saying and what you've done, and just your just your leadership style is exactly what we want as a company. We want people that lead from the front, and the fact that you just never let your foot off building a base shop gives you so much of an advantage from a leadership standpoint, and allows you to be the type of leader that ultimately everyone wants to be, which is, I'm going to do it with or without you. It's not, you're not saying that, but you're showing that with your actions. And you've even gotten yourself to a place where what you're selling people, especially in the beginning and throughout, is ultimate success, freedom, money, being a millionaire, and you're showing them that, but you're not, because you're concentrating on your base shop. Sometimes you stop building the base, and those 2, 3, 4, 5 leaders that you might have, you start pressuring too much. You start putting too much, on them and expecting them to have the same, what you end up doing is you kind of suck the autonomy out of your group and out of your leadership. And they start to feel like, well, I got to do it because Marshall wants me to now, or Marshall needs me to keep growing. I got to move Marshall up. Marshall's not thinking about that. Marshall's thinking about building his base shop, and he says, you can have what I have as long as you do what I'm showing you. Right. And I just think that autonomy and that freedom and choice is one of the most, if not the most important thing that we all have to give our people. And it's one of the most motivating things. That's why all of us got our insurance license and are here today. So when you stop building the base, you start applying too much pressure on your existing leadership. You suck the autonomy out of the room, and now their motivation's gone. And so much of that is linked, Marshall, to you just staying head down on that base shop and making sure that you don't need any one of those people. You're leading from the absolute front. And that's such a beautiful example of what leadership is. And what you're doing there, man, kudos to you. And you see it rippling throughout your entire agency. You see it in all of your leadership. They're just kind of casually I'm going for it. Follow me if you want. And I love that. I think that's such a great example of what
it's focusing so much on what you can control, and where you get your energy. And I think it's such a good point, Casey. There's pitfalls in the business, right? And you'll hear people say sometimes, well, I'm just going to start working with my AOs and working with my leaders. And sometimes I want to say, but they don't need you.
They may not even want you.
They may not even want you.
know?
Did you ask them if that was if that's what they wanted? The people that need you are the, hundreds of thousands of insurance agents out there that are going to be your next leaders. Now, I'm not saying that you ignore your leaders. That's the opposite of what we would say. I'm just saying, focus on what you can control. And what you can control is bringing in new people, setting the example, setting the pace. And then I think, Marshall, the best thing that you've controlled is you can make this look like you want it to look, right? Your work looks completely different than anybody else's work. You're not afraid to be on a boat interviewing somebody. You're not afraid to have people over to your house for a lake party or a beach party now, because you understand that connection is what's so important. But you've built this life intentionally, at least from the outside looking in. We haven't talked about this, but it feels like you have been very intentional about building this thing around what you want, not only what you want to get, but how you want to get there. And I think that's so motivational to people, right? I would say well done on that. Has that always been intentional, an intention of yours?
Well, first few years, I just wanted to get out of debt. I mean, I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So, but yeah, I mean, the more I got educated on our system, the more I got into our culture, I realized I can build this business exactly the way I want it. And now I have a dream life. I mean, I have very healthy friends, very happy friends that I love when they come to my houses because they're my best friends. You know, who could say that you have thousands of best friends? I do in my organization. I look at every one of the people that are out there scrapping, fighting their way to the top as my best friend because I was there. I did it. And it's well worth getting to the top. It's so worth it. And now I can live anywhere I want, be with my friends and family anytime I want, just by catching an airplane and going to see people. And I just have a dream lifestyle now, thanks to you guys and Cemetery Financial.
Oh,
I mean, this is just it's a dream come true that I never ever thought I would ever be able to have. Thank you
well,
guys, man.
that's awesome, buddy. You get me all misty-eyed over here. I'm so damn happy to see you and think back to 2007 when, Casey, we were floating around a lazy river. And if I remember right, there was a water slide, Marshall, that went down and there were sharks in like this glass beside and I remember being so broke at that place. Meredith and I landed, we got to the resort and we were starving. So we grabbed like a burger and a cocktail and it was probably $150. And we are like, oh God. Oh Lord. And some people may be in that position now. You go to a Four Seasons in Tamarindo and you're like, oh my
Not
God,
the same.
$30 cocktail. What just happened? I think the beauty of it is all of you are in a position, all the agents that we have are in a position to do something about that. And if we don't get caught up in the ones that don't and won't, and just get caught up in the ones that might by finding new ones, then your life can look so much different. And Marshall, you're a perfect testament to that, buddy. Let me ask you one other question. Business wise, when people get to your level, what's the hardest part?
Seeing people quit on themselves. Yeah, it breaks my heart because I know it was just something they haven't been doing on the four cornerstones. I mean, it's it's the Bible from 13, 15 years ago. And it's still the same. It's never changed. Just like these boxes that Casey talks about have never changed. Getting people to conference has never changed. You are a success if you get people to conference. And some people nowadays they rely on texts and emails and fax, or not even fax anymore, but other things. You know what I mean? But there's nothing better than picking up the phone, calling somebody, and saying, "Hey, Brandon, I'm glad to be having on the phone with you, man. Guess what? We have an event coming on in a couple weeks, and I really want you to be there because I want to introduce you to the leaders of this company. Because Brandon, I think you've got the potential to be on top of this company. Is that what you want? Great, man. Well, let's get you out to Denver. Let's go ahead and get you signed up today. Get the flights ordered. Let's get going. Hey, if you got to sell something, man, I sold washer and dryers to get to my first one. You gotta do something to get there, man, because this is where it's happening. I mean, everybody on this call right now, if they make 5 phone calls a day, just five, give me 5 phone calls, everybody. Promise me you'll give me 5 phone calls to people you don't even know, but they're on your phone. You just call them up and invite them to Denver. By golly, you'll get people. What happens if I would have called Jacob Pogue? Because Jacob had never sold anything and he was ready to quit. And I said, dude, you got to be there. That's the reason why you have to be there, is because you haven't sold anything. This is where you're going to learn it. This is where you're going to get the power. You're going to get the motivation to do it. You're going to get the know-how to do everything in this business by coming to a convention. So let's go. You know, Good God, I'm so happy I made a phone call to Jacob Pogue and Ryan Miller or Rob Puckett. If I wouldn't have made those calls, one-on-one calls, I don't think our group would be where they are today. So I promise everybody on here, make 5 phone calls a day. That's not much of time. You can do it. And by God, you will have a massive group at convention.
Well, Marshall just has a way of making it so simple. I love it.
I thought he was going to say taxes, but that was way better. Good job, Marshall.
Oh man, I absolutely love it, guys. I don't think there's any better way to end it than you all have homework. And it's such a great reminder that there's no form of communication better than pick up the phone call and just have an honest conversation with somebody.
I think
You
people
know,
should put it in
Marshall,
the chat. Commit. He's making phone calls a day.
that's right. Get
Put
it
it
in
out
there.
there.
How about that for a symmetry call? I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad we got to do this. And I want to ask, like, when we heard this call last week, I remember getting off of it and it just felt like fog for me was just lifted. So I want to ask you guys, like, put a word in the chat, like your biggest takeaway from that call, or what's something you noticed about Marshall's leadership mindset that stood out to you? Simplicity. Yep, me too. Other people, simple, selfless, autonomy, connection, consistency, systems, crystal clear. Yeah, totally. I guess we just wanted to share this call with you guys too, because we've got 9 weeks till conference and we want to do the Millionaire Challenge with you all. So Kyle and I wanted to bring that to the team and just say every Friday, we're going to hop on a Zoom for 15, 30 minutes, depending on how many people want to do that with us. It'll be 1 o'clock Mountain Time. We'll jump on Zoom. That'll be 3 Eastern. And we can be a little flexible if there's really people that want to get on that time's no good. But we're going to commit. And before you commit, we want to just ask, don't throw your hat into that ring unless you're going to be committed to showing up to that call for the next 9 weeks with us and putting in the work that it's going to take to check the 15 appointment box off and the 20 recruiting conversation box off. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect every week, but we're going to be working our hardest to check those off so we can celebrate checking off that millionaire box together every week. And if now's not the time for you to be doing that, we'll maybe restart after conference. So if you want to be invited to that Zoom call, let us know. We'll get the invite out. If you want to throw that into the chat, maybe put a 1. We'll make sure you guys get the invite. It's just going to be quick, touch base. How did it go this week? Did we get our boxes checked? If not, what are we going to change for next week to hopefully get a little bit closer to checking that box off? And just be kind of like an accountability time to wrap up the week on Friday afternoon. And we'll do that with you guys every week till conference and then hopefully beyond. Kyle, do you want to throw?
Yeah, it just, again, it's hearing the way that he breaks it down. And something that stands out to me in this call is do the 2 boxes. And if you can start checking that millionaire box, look up a year from now, like look up 2 years from now. Like that is just, it's mind-boggling how short of a time frame that is and how quickly things can change. Like Danny Young always says, man, this business can change in the blink of an eye.
Mhm.
And we've all seen that, whether it is production or it is building. But I think, again, being hyper focused on those boxes, and then something too that just stands out to me is everything else outside of that
Name it.
is costing us time, or sorry, costing us money.
Mhm.
It's costing us resources. And yeah, those are just, I don't know, the focuses.
So many notes. So many notes. We wanted to open up the floor for the next 7 minutes too. Mama Gaines, looks like you were going to say something quick.
Oh, no rush. No, whenever you're
Oh,
ready.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what stood out to the most to you guys, just as far as like what we can implement for this week? Or anything he said really that kind of went, because I've got like a whole page full all over again. I'd love to just hear what you guys thought. Open floor.
I would say when I first got interested in this, I was prepared to be a producer and sell as many policies as possible. I needed him to bring up the point that recruiting is just equally as important. That's really how you maximize your money. And like I said, that's what I'm here for.
I love that, Destin.
So good, man.
Right on, Destin.
I love that.
I knew there was a reason I liked you.
I love that.
Well, how about anybody that hasn't decided that they're going to conference? Really think about that today,
Mm, mm-hmm.
because that was another spin. This will be my third. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The 3.5, because I went to Dallas too. So I wouldn't miss it for the world. I want to be with all of you there.
Mm-hmm.
Please come if you haven't decided.
Yeah.
Danny always says you can't afford not to go, and stuck with us.
He
And
also
Tim, I remember
said,
when you went that first year, when I met you in Denver. I know you went to the Dallas part-time, but I remember you were still you were kind of just dipping your toe in the water, just kind of making sure like, yeah, I think this is what I want. I mean, you took a lot of time in analyzing and, digging in and seeing what the heart of the company was, man. And I think that's pretty, I think that speaks volumes personally, that you took the time to do it. And even after all of the time that you took to research, you go, yep, this is it. That says a lot to me anyway.
Well, the first dinner we had,
Yeah, I remember
Jennifer
it well.
said, "This is my husband, Kevin. You sit here."
Exactly.
And
Incredible.
I got a front row seat to both of you
Yeah, pretty
and
crazy.
everybody else. But
Absolutely.
I got to pump you because Jennifer challenged me. She said, "Come to Denver and you'll
Yep.
see for yourself." So
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is."
It's so good. I just love the gratitude that he has and the peace. Like
Mm,
from someone in his position, talk about this business with so much peace. And we know he's put in the work.
hmm
Hearing him explain what was hard in his career, letting go people he loved and worked with for years, and those circumstances required him to let them go. That's something we'll never have to encounter here. That's hard. This isn't. Filling up 2 boxes every week to stay in business, pay the bills, and look up after a couple years to be a multimillionaire. That's not so hard. I think that for me was what stood out to me the most. And hearing Marshall say, barely paying my bills for a few years to build a recruiting machine, that sentence includes sacrifice for him. And being hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, I can't even fathom it. Like, that's hard. Again, hearing him say, how many times did he say this is the simplest business model he's ever encountered? Like, I think that's what we need to remind ourselves on the weeks where we're stuck in this really close, this is hard vision. And like he said, expand that out. And I think that's kind of the point of the Millionaire Challenge too. Like, we want to keep that vision big and keep that
hmm
every week because it's easy to get stuck right here.
hmm
I'm really excited to fill those boxes with you guys. Thank you for sitting here through our movie today.
I just wanted to say I'm so glad that you guys brought this to our team. So thank you for doing that. And I love the challenge and yeah, the inspiration. It's exciting. I also just wanted to really, really quickly, while we were on this call, somebody was inspired. I hope we were all inspired, but somebody was inspired to sign up for pre-licensing. So I don't know if that person wants to.
Are you wanting me to say me or what?
Yeah, I do want you to say you.
Out of left field.
Let's go.
Left field. Yeah, no, you guys all inspire me. It really is just because of all of you. And like, I do want to shout out one person in particular. Well, obviously my family, but Anna, as a mom, you have inspired me so much. And if you don't know my story, I would love to share it with you one day. But I just have had a rough go of it the past couple years, and I'm a teacher and I don't make much money and would love a little extra cash. And so you all inspire me, and I'm just excited to, I don't know, hopefully quickly be a part of the business. So yeah, I'm super excited. You guys are all awesome. And so thank you for inspiring me, my brother, my sister, especially, and my mom. And now dad's a part of it. I mean, sorry, everybody, you're kind of stuck with the Gaines crew here now. So you got us all. Literally
Oh,
FOMO.
so
So
good.
true.
That's so fun, Kayla. Congratulations. That's exciting. I mean, and it's just like that, decisions are made like at conference on calls. And so, when you never know when you're going to feel that spark or that inspiration. And if you don't show up, then I don't know, it may not happen. So glad you showed up, Kayla. Glad you listened to that little
Yeah.
prompting to go ahead and enroll in pre-licensing. So
Well, and also on top of that too, to go kind of the opposite direction. You guys never know what you're doing and how it's going to impact somebody else. So I think I hear it all the time, like your story matters and what you have to say matters. And I think that's just like in everyday life, it matters. But I've just heard it so much with this group of people and just with Symmetry. And so you never know who's watching. You never know who's listening or seeing your story. Like I'm obviously not super involved on Slack, but every once in a while I see a lot of your guys's just a lot of what you're writing in your business. And then I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's so amazing. Like that's something I can totally do. Like, and so I don't know. It's just, I'm really excited. You never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. Your story matters. Everybody has something to say. You all are great. And I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for letting me be your admin for a year and a half.
I love this so much.
so fun. Thanks, Kayla.
Cool, guys. Well, let's make it an awesome week. 9 weeks till conference. Let's check those millionaire boxes. Again, if you didn't throw one in the chat and you want to be on that call, shoot me a message in Slack and I'll get the link sent out today. Super excited. Let's do it, team. Have an
There we
awesome
go.
week.
See
See
you
you guys.
guys.